In 1851, barely a dozen settlers had made La Grande Traverse, as travel was primarily by water. Drawn to the vast pine forests that covered this land, Hannah and his Chicago partners purchased a mill and 200 acres, what is now downtown Traverse City. Over 35 years, Hannah Lay & Company produced 1 billion board feet of lumber. In fact, after the Great Chicago Fire, much of the wood used to rebuild came from the Hannah Lay Company. Hannah oversaw operations from a small cottage near the mill until convinced by his wife to build a retirement home that suited his community stature. His 1893 Queen Anne Mansion on 6th Street was a showpiece then as it is now, with over 40 rooms built from native hardwoods. Hannah recognized that pine would soon run out and had the foresight to seek a future for his growing village. By donating land and attracting the Northern Michigan Asylum, he secured year-round jobs and state funding and preserved 300 acres of woodlands in the heart of Traverse City. One of the largest historic renovation sites in the nation today, the village is an example of his vision for our town. Tourists first arrived by steamships, which ferried lumber and supplies from Chicago to Traverse City. Recognizing the importance of the railroad, Hannah donated half the funds necessary to bring rail service to town. Generous with talent and money, he became Traverse City's first mayor and donated land for all churches and public agencies. His mercantile was the cornerstone of downtown commerce, a site still visible today.
This one smells like a typical founder's narrative to me. I would like to thank Emily for generously donating to the channel and pointing me in the direction of Traverse City. If you have a specific location you would like me to cover, a donation will put your video at the top of the list. Welcome to all newcomers. Thank you to all viewers and subscribers. Let's check out Traverse City. So first of all, where is Traverse City? Well, let's zoom in a little bit on the state of Michigan, and you can see here, off of Lake Michigan, we have an inlet, and Traverse City located down here at the bottom of the inlet. And of course, before we get to the visuals, we have to get the population demographics out of the way. You can see in the modern day here, we're just over 15,000. We turn the clocks back down to the turn of the 20th century, and we're just under 10,000 people. And you can see here, 1880 is the start of the census data, and just over 2,000. And you're going to see so many of these buildings being built in this first 3 decades, when the population was lower than 10,000 people. And we begin with a glimpse of Traverse City's brave pioneers. 1873, they're telling us that these 4 gentlemen, Mr. Perry Hannah, one of them, they're also depicting for us what the region was supposed to have looked like. You can see the teepees here, the very rough and rugged timber of northern Michigan. And of course, these gentlemen will be responsible for transforming it into the city that it is today. This is a bird's eye view from 1879. Remember, the census data only begins for us in 1880, and it's less than 2,000 people, but we've already got quite a prominent layout. You can see how everything's been gridded off. Even though development hasn't really even happened yet. See over here, this is typical of many of the early bird's eye view maps, and I've mentioned in the past that I believe these are giving us a depiction not of what was there, but what was expected to have been there. So let's get into some of Traverse City. Here we have an older shot looking like the turn of the century. We've got a combination of motorized vehicles and horse and buggies, and a nice looking street scene laden with flags. We see this so often too, almost like a conquering power has taken to the streets in these locations. The signs painted on the sides of the buildings and out front, not always matching the architecture that we're seeing here. Very wide streets as well. So even though a very small city, we've got quite a bit of early development going on here. We'll get right into the Asylum as well. You can see here that this one has a 2-year build time on it. It's quite a large facility. Let's take another look. You saw it in the intro as well. It looks like they'd taken down the central structure in the modern day. Go back and watch the intro. Flattened off the entrance area there, but they've kept the wings intact. This is interesting as well. They say 8 million bricks were used to construct this. So I did a little bit of rough math and figured it would be about 10,000 bricks a day. So 1883, you've got about 2,500 people roughly living in Traverse City, and Mr. Hanna gets the big project going. It becomes tough to swallow the narrative, as usual. And of course, why are you building such a facility? Were there that many crazy people? As you'll see moving forward, it's not the only asylum as well. Here's a plan layout of the Kirkbride style facility. And they say this one was built because the nearby asylums, one in Kalamazoo, were full to the brim. And this one's in Pontiac, Michigan. And they were just so full they had to build another one. So a lot of crazy people, I guess, in that 1870s, 1880s time period. Enough to justify the construction of these massive facilities. Interesting part of the narrative with this one has to do with the brick-laden tunnels that lie beneath as well, which apparently you can tour in Traverse City. And I did a little searching to see if that 8 million brick count included the tunnels, and apparently it does not. So what does that get the count up? And also the tunnels were said to have been built at the same time as the original structure. So you have to allow for all of this to have been done in that 2-year period. I'm trying to envision them building tunnels in Traverse City in the 1880s with such a small population, let alone the structure on top. And here is just a little bit of information letting you know that the tunnels were actually 7 to 10 feet high, although they were supposedly built for utilities, easily walked through at 7 to 10 feet high, which I find interesting as well. But you can make of that what you will. Yet another asylum. This one in Traverse City. And there's a good look at the modern version where they have taken that central portion out. Why on earth they would do that? Well, your guess is as good as mine, I suppose. You probably know my guess. We'll move on, though. We have a couple churches. Quite a few churches, actually. Built in an early time period, 1874, this Baptist church, before the census data really gets going for us to have a look at. It still stands, and you can see what they've done to this one. They've taken off the upper portions of the tower, as they so often do. I found this one as well. I'm not sure the designation of it. Very colonial style, the columns. Nice looking structure, worthy of inclusion. Nice looking street scene here as well. We see several of the churches. We'll be taking a closer look at those as we move forward. This is the Central United Methodist Church, built in 6 to 12 months. 12 would be the high end of the construction time period on this one. Not an easy construction, building all of this rounded shapes. Of course, basements. 6 months in the 19 teens, about 12,000 people living there. You decide. I do personally believe, of course, that there's much more to our history, and then our history stretches further back than we're being told, and we've been given a false start narrative. And as I explore each different location, it seems these theories of mine can be applied to wherever we look. So here's the Congregational Church I showed you in that postcard. This one's built in 1891. They were really good at stone, I guess, even though it was a lumber capital. It's interesting, though, because it has been amalgamated. 2 churches have been amalgamated and turned into the 86th District Courthouse, as you can see here. And here's a good visual of the blending, you'll excuse the watermarks here, of the two. You have this big square box and the stonework around it, and of course some new stonework to match. But this is their effort to preserve these structures, I think. There you can see what's left of that church. In the background we have the existing courthouse. Let's take a look at that. And this is a 1-year build time. 1899, at a time when there's less than 10,000 people living there. Of course, we always have the cannon on display and some sort of statue. Well, heavy symbolism going on with these courthouses, I think. Interesting, though, as well, because they'll say this was built as a result of the original courthouse having burned down in the Great Fire of Traverse City. Yes, they had their own Great Fire. Let's take a look at some of the narrative there. I did take an extensive look at the Great Fires over on the NewsTreason channel on Rumble. I'll put the link to that in the description as well if you missed it. We go deep into the repetitive nature of the narrative, which you're going to find here as well with Traverse City. 1862, very early on in the time period. Causes and impacts. The fire was likely fueled by the abundance of wooden structures and dry conditions as usual. Strong winds also play a part, as they usually do. So this is clearly, to me, a reset narrative where originally everything was made of wood, and then they had a great fire. And the impact of the fire destroyed a large number of buildings, significantly affecting the downtown area. Then the justification will come in to build the downtown core with brick and stone. And that's always the case. It's a reset narrative as far as I'm concerned. Also, they will beef up their firefighting response as a result. And then they always will tell you, too, that the community quickly began rebuilding. They got right to it. So all of these are aspects of the fire narrative that repeat from location to location. And you'll be surprised if you've never looked into the fire narrative how often the narrative does repeat. Here's the plaque they put out front of the courthouse for us. We'll take a quick look as well, and they'll touch on the fire narrative. That's how I became aware of it, actually. The first courthouse and jail were built in 1854 on land donated by Mr. Hannah, Lay and Company. Burned down in that great fire. Then they rented quarters until they had the chance to rebuild this. Okay, let's keep going. There's the courthouse again, and we see the jail here on the right, which predates the courthouse, we'll be told. Makes me really wonder that I think these two coexisted from when they were, from their inception. It was a part of the complex. I don't think one came before another. And then just a street scene of the types of downtown buildings, the brick-laden buildings that, of course, were mandated because of the fire. And there's the fire station. You can see with its nice little tower on the corner. Bell tower. And this thing still stands, but it's nothing but a whisper, really, in the modern day. You would walk by that and not even think twice about it. There it is again. You can see the brick-paved streets as well, which we so often see no matter where we look. Here we're looking like a herringbone pattern of bricks. That's a lot of labor for such a small city. The Hannah Lay building, built in 1883. It only took 1 year to build this. This is the same time they're building the Asylum, keep in mind. So of that population of 2,000 people, how many brickies? How many chippies? Carpenters? How many painters? How many plasterers? Yeah. You would think everyone's working at the lumberyard at that point in time. And this is a look at what it used to look like. Check out the difference too. We look at the upper roof line, what has been removed, what is so often the case. We'll take a look at this one. This is the Savings Bank building in the background as well. There's another look at the Hannah Lay building built in the 1880s. There you get a good look at the tech on top of these protrusions on the roof line. And of course the signage not really looking like any original part of the building itself, but an afterthought. I managed to dig up an old high school for you. This one built in the 1880s as well. They must have just finished the Asylum and built the high school in a similar fashion. Burns down in 1934, we're told. Showing all those hallmarks of that similar architectural style. A veritable ghost of a building, the Hotel Traverse. I think it burned down in 1960. Difficult to get anything on this, but you can see again a very prominent brick and stone structure, archways, multi-storied. Hotel Whiting still stands as well, but you can see how modernization has done its thing. Alright, we'll keep moving. And just a sneak peek at one of the Victorian-style houses that still stand in Traverse City. No doubt that many of them are no longer with us. There's that jail again, and I have a date attached to it again, 1883. Same year that the Hannah Lay building was built, the same year that the Asylum is being constructed, and it's just very, very busy time for them to build all of this with brick and stone, of course. We have a couple libraries. The Ladies' Library. There's the Congregational Church adjacent to it. I'm not sure how old this postcard is, but this one's said to have been built in 1911-12, this church. Would like to have a date for that postcard. It'd be interesting to know. And there's the Ladies' Library in the modern day. We also have a public library, no doubt a Carnegie Library, although I don't see the name on the front. Somewhat humble, but you can also get the architectural styling that we're so used to seeing of the old world. And this would be the Gentleman's Club. I don't know if we can make that out. You can make it out in the modern day. There we go. I'll refrain from using the word. 1890, it looks like they built this. 1890, there's less than 5,000 people there. Again, you can see what they do to these structures. Let's look at the original with all of its ornate decoration that you can just barely make out in this grainy black and white with these little star-shaped figures on top. And chop, 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 chop. And why on earth you would reduce these buildings? Well, I think we know. There's the mausoleum for Mr. Julius Hannah. Worth a look. The Milliken building. This one dating back quite far as well. This is interesting as well as we look closer and you get these sort of muddy looking streets with built up walkways. Looking like they've got wooden walkways covering something below there. And they've also got these lower entrances. And they're fenced off. Or lower openings. There's definitely windows. Maybe not an entrance. Maybe, though. Hard to tell from the photo. But you get that all the way down the length of the building. Something strange about the relationship of the street and the building here. We see this over and over. I just found a little snippet of the Milliken building. This one dating back fairly far as well. The bank, National Bank and Trust building. Again, showing us a lower entrance here. And it still stands in the modern day. And again, it's been somewhat flattened. The columns have been either covered up, well, removed, I would suggest, if we look again. And then covered up with this glass front. So diminishing the majesty of the old world, as is so often the case. And if you were to guess that Traverse City had an opera house, you would be correct. There was a great need for an opera house, apparently, in Traverse City. And let's take a look. 1890, when there's less than 10,000 people, there was such an outcry for an opera house that they decided to build this opulent structure. And it still stands, giving us just a glimpse of the glory that it once possessed. Steinberg's looks like Grand Opera House. What's changed? Let's see. Something's changed, that's for sure. Almost doesn't look like the same building. Unless we're looking at it from a different angle. Let's look one more time to compare. I don't think it is. Does that mean they had two? There's a look at the interior of the opera house. With all its decoration. Cherubs dancing. Angelic cherubs. Alright, we'll keep moving forward. Not a large file. Not a large location. But I do want to thank Emily for pointing me in the direction of Traverse City. And again, I would like to say, if you want me to zone in on a location specifically, a donation will get you your location to the top of the list in a hurry. And of course, I appreciate all your support for the channel, whether it's a donation or a thumbs up or a subscription or all of the above. It allows me to keep doing what I'm doing, bringing you the goods on all these locations. Here's the Park Place Hotel. Looking like we've got some brickstone action down below. A lot of wood. Nice looking structure. Interesting gathering of individuals. There you have some timeline. The structure was built, this one was built opened in 1873 as the Campbell House. Sold to Hannah Lay in 1879, then renamed. They say the current brick tower opened in 1930. I don't know if that's supposed to be a brick tower, if there's one now. There's that Milliken building again, all in that same timeline. And here's the Perry Hannah house that was mentioned in the intro, with its 40 different types of local hardwood, apparently. You can see the copper top on the turret here. Looking like a classic old worlder. We have the post office. Still stands in the modern day, looking like it's close to that Congregational church. And our final location, that State Bank building that you saw, very prominent on the cityscape of Traverse City. And let me just show you again a close look at what it looks like in the modern day. Definitely has been flattened, made plain. Let's focus on the upper tower here. And let me get in a little closer on what it once looked like. And if we could see through the graininess, you could see the eagle figurines on the four corners. And you can see how decorative the dome once was. And we'll go back to what it is now, and it looks like all of this detail has been removed. Very interesting. Also, if we look closely in the foreground, we see the brick paved streets again. So something has been diminished. The glory of the past, the visual splendor of the past, and Traverse City offering us a lot more than one would expect for a town with humble wooden beginnings. Alright, thanks for watching. This has been an old world exploration. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and comment. I believe we are in the process of remembering who we really are and casting off the shackles of illusion. Until next time.